Police continue their desperate search for missing church organist Agnes Rathburn, who vanished while spreading the good word in rural Pitt County today. The 57-year-old Barfield resident, who was participating in her church's annual outreach, was last seen while she was stopped at the fuel station on Highway 64 on Thursday afternoon. Rathburn's car was found in a swampy area just north of Homer Junction on Saturday. Action 10's Stephanie Brown has been on scene today and has the latest in this search.
Brad, I just spoke with Sheriff Buford Douglas in regards to the search for church worker Agnes Rathburn. As we know, his car was just discovered outside of the scene of the horrific murders from 10 years ago that were linked to Floyd Cranston. Floyd Cranston, as we reported previously, was just released on a misconduct by the former sheriff. Now, state police are telling me that the search for Floyd Cranston is not a priority by Sheriff Douglas.
Our current concern is finding Miss Rathburn, and we are devoting all of our deputies to doing just that. I wouldn't jump to any conclusions about what may have happened to the poor woman.
But isn't it concerning that Mrs. Rathburn's car was discovered just a few miles from the Cranston place?
Now that Mr. Cranston's convictions have been set aside by the judge, he is just like any other Pitt County citizen. Floyd is no more a suspect than you or I.
Well, Brad, as you just heard, Sheriff Douglas doesn't seem focused on finding Cranston. Although the locals do not understand why. One neighbor quoted saying, "I don't know how the discovery of 24 bodies could not make him the #1 suspect." I'm Stephanie Brown, signing off.
Thank you, Stephanie. Action 10 News will continue to follow the story, and we'll bring you updates as they develop.
Public outrage as North Carolina's most prolific serial killer is released from prison. Is Floyd Cranston up to his old tricks? Tonight on Point Line. A murderous madman released on a technicality terrified families cowering behind locked doors in their homes, and now a woman gone missing while trying to spread the good word. How in the world can Judge Johnson sleep at night knowing that his ridiculous decision to free Floyd Cranston has created such a chaos in this community? Tonight, we'll speak with Floyd Cranston's attorney and his childhood court-appointed psychiatrist to gauge just how afraid we should really be. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. Cranston's attorney, Gilbert Sham, to the show. Mr. Sham, thank you for speaking with us tonight. Can you explain to the residents of this community how you justify a convicted serial killer out walking the streets?
Nancy, Floyd Cranston was convicted of crimes committed almost a decade ago. And in the eyes of the court, those are crimes that they see he no longer committed. So, I see no justification to keep him incarcerated.
You argued in court that Floyd Cranston did not represent a public threat. Do you still believe that in light of today's news?
If the police think that Mr. Cranston is still a threat, then it's their job to monitor his activities. It's my job to represent my client.
You didn't answer my question, Mr. Sham. And I'm guessing you won't because you know darn well Mr. Cranston has no business being free. Next, we're going to speak with Floyd Cranston's childhood psychiatrist to get a professional opinion about just how dangerous he really is. Dr. Stanley Hubert, welcome to Point Line.
Thanks for having me, Nancy.
What can you tell us about Floyd Cranston? And exactly how concerned should our viewers be now that he's been released?
Well, Nancy, I first met Floyd when I worked at the Department of Mental Health in Leesburg. I met with Floyd 3 times a week for about 6 months. And as I testified at his sentencing 8 years ago, Floyd had a profoundly troubled childhood, and I think that has permanently affected his ability to function in normal society.
So, what you're saying is that Judge Johnson erred by releasing Mr. Cranston? That he, in fact, is a danger to society? Well, Dr. Hubert, Pointline has obtained video in which you detailed your sessions with the young Floyd Cranston. As our viewers will see, describing this person as a troubled individual doesn't even scratch the surface. Can we roll the video of Dr. Hubert's clinical trials?
Where we start now. I'm Dr. Stanley Hubert, primary health treatment provider of patient 4504, Floyd Jacob Cranston, male, age 13. These are clinical notes. I have been observing Mr. Cranston for approximately 5 weeks now and have conducted 17 treatment sessions with Mr. Cranston, and what I'm finding is unusual. Mr. Cranston has displayed characteristics of sociopathy, sadism, and psychopathy. After intensive studies and interviews, it is my belief that these stem from abuse suffered as a young child, most likely from his mother. Mr. Cranston exhibits elevated anger and violence toward women and male authority figures. Mr. Cranston has an extensive violent fantasy life. One of these fantasies 3 months ago, one of these fantasies involves a violent murder of a nameless vagrant female. Mr. Cranston specified he would enjoy using his hands manually to, quote, strangle the life out of them, end quote. He has also stated that he has fantasized about removing flesh from the victims and has, quote, cannibalistic thoughts, end quote. Clinical notes continuing. Thus far, Mr. Cranston has not responded to any treatment and has stated an unwillingness to cooperate with future treatments. In short, there seems to be no rehabilitation of Mr. Cranston. He is absolutely consumed by violent fantasies and thoughts of murder. Mr. Cranston is currently on trial for a single murder with no physical evidence and no body. It is unlikely that he will be convicted, in my opinion, with the amounts of detail his fantasies yield. Floyd has killed before, and he will kill again. Mr. Cranston will kill again. He will not stop. He is a danger to society. I repeat, Floyd Cranston will not stop killing as long as he is able.
Well, I guess that says it all, doesn't it, Dr. Hubert? That's our show for this evening. Join us tomorrow for the latest on the search for Agnes Rathburn.